Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
On the edge they take the throne, built on bones of those unknown. Nothing first, never last, still erased from the past. I am an American loser. No one remembers my name. No legacy and no future. One step behind in the game.
All right. What is going on, folks? It's KP Burke. I am the host of the show, American Loser. We are putting the spotlight firmly on second place. We are live at a Gas Digital podcast studio at an address I still won't give you because we're afraid. We're afraid of what you guys might do, okay? We're live at the American Loser bar. This we love the design of the set over here, all right? Loser made the American way, right? We got a bunch of cool stuff going on in the background over here. I'm excited. So also very excited too. A couple of reasons. First and foremost, we're live at Gas Digital, folks. It's the big leagues. We're here now, okay? This is what we're doing, all right? No more shared universe. We love them very much over there, but that building is condemned, okay? It's condemned. How many times does a fire alarm have to go off or flooding have to occur on a fifth floor of a building for some reason? We just had to make our move over here. It's there were times that studio looked like when Ripley and the Colonial Marines showed up in Aliens to try to figure out what the hell went wrong here, but we're good now, folks, all right? We're live at a Gas Digital. First of all, again, always happy to be here, excited. Thank you for joining us. The show's already been very well received. I'm grateful for that. If you're not following us, first of all, the best way to watch this show, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for doing that. That's pretty cool. You leave a comment telling me something, all right? Say anything. Literally say anything. But if you really want to get this show where it's an unedited version and I don't have to censor myself, because occasionally my North Jersey comes out and I just have to say, things that I really typically don't want to say. I'm not even going to say it right now because I don't want to have to edit it out on YouTube. But the real fucking show is over on Gas Digital Network, okay?
There you go.
Use promo code LOSER. You guys get $1 off a month, okay? Other shows like Legion of Skanks, Zach's Morning Zoo, and my good pals over at High Society Radio. Real quick, I got to just say hi to the fellas in the booth right now. We got good old St. Michael Harrington, the reason we're all here, folks. Say hi, Harrington.
Hey, what's up, KP?
And real quick, the Dominator is here. Is it okay to give you a nickname of Dominator?
Yeah, that's okay.
We're going to run with that one, man. These guys work their asses off for me. They really do. I'm very grateful. It's a total team effort. Originally, when this show started, it was a two-man effort, okay? And one half of that tag team here is sitting to my left right now. Longtime listeners will remember him. But the man who helps me put the spotlight firmly on second place and occasionally create what we would refer to as Teddy Roosevelt porn. My DILF of a dad, Lawrence Patrick Burke. Welcome to the studio, Dad.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is a long time since we've been in front of a microphone, but good to be here. Good to be here.
You're right.
And on the east side of the river, where life is real here.
Absolutely. It's we were noticing a lot of young ladies on our way in. It's good.
Nice
right?
spring day.
Gotta be careful. Mom watches the show. Mom is a Gas Digital member too. So
well, we're just watching.
Mom's a Gas Digital member, and she's now buying Kratom from Yo Kratom. So it's very uncomfortable at our house right now. This podcast studio is doing things to us. That being said, if you guys know the show, here's what we do. We cover weird topics from American history, or what we'll do is we'll take a very well-known person from history, and then we're just going to take a little extra time on the stuff that the history books skip over on. Yeah. My father's a retired shop teacher. He thought his life was going to get easier in retirement. No, you work for me now, motherfucker. What are you going to do about it?
I got to talk to you about that. The pay scale has got to be sliding or somehow or whatever. But
as I've told you, as soon as we turn a profit on this show, I'll get off your easy pass. I swear to God I will. Okay?
Spending more time writing podcasts than they did in writing lesson plans, but that's beside the point.
Well,
this is more fun.
It is more fun, actually. It really is. So, again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. That's how you help grow the show. People are asking me, how can we help grow the show? Leave comments over on the algorithm there. If you're going to join the Gas Digital Network, which you should do, let's be clear, it's the most important comedy network out there. It's the guys fighting the good fight. Join, use promo code LOSER. That's how I get paid, and that's how you guys get $1 off a month on getting access to all the unedited, uncensored, crazy nonsense created by the great legendary Legion of Skanks, Louis J. Gomez. So we're going to dive in over here. This topic is very personal to me for a couple of reasons. I'm excited. And one final plug, if you're commenting on the reels on Instagram, my Instagram is at KPBurkeSucks. If you guys enjoy any of those reels, those were Mike Harrington's ideas. He goes, dude, your show's great. Have you ever thought about doing it in 90 seconds instead of 4 hours?
Yeah, give him the elevator pitch.
And I said, that's a pretty good idea. I think, we'll get the elevator pitch going. But this topic is a doozy, okay? And I hope you're watching on Gas Digital, because I don't want you guys to miss out on the things that we're going to have to say, because in order to legitimately quote today's loser, we're going to have to say things that would get us a red flag on YouTube. Okay, I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but we'll see what happens, right? But the rules kind of go out the window when you're talking about General George Patton, Dad. Is that fair to say?
Georgie, he was his own man for sure. That, he was an ass kicker, taking names and chewing bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum, right? So.
Anytime we can get a quote from Rowdy Piper onto this show, you have
right.
Full carte blanche to do so.
He was an ass kicker for sure, but... it wasn't quite politically astute
no.
as to what might be offensive to others, but he didn't really give a shit. But
well, I'm a Navy veteran, so I've seen a lot of people that were officers that become politicians, if you will, right? That's how it goes for building up on the ranks and everything.
Right.
Patton, not quite a politician.
No.
I think he was warrior ethos nonstop. So real quick, also I want to address one thing. When the camera cuts to my father, you guys will see a Confederate flag up in the corner, and I want to be very clear on this, okay? So that you guys, I personally am against the Confederacy. They're on the wall because they lost, okay? Now, Mike Harrington, he keeps telling me the South is going to rise again. He swears it up and down, okay? It's
right.
His wife is from the South. I think they're trying to...
Any beverage served here is in a Dixie cup. That's just a little something extra.
Oh, Dixie cups too, right? Oh, man. What were you going to say, Harrington?
My wife is from Queens.
Yes.
I have dreams of moving down south.
It's a very tricky topic, too, because New York City, during the Civil War, very pro-Confederacy. Pretty trippy. It was, they were very anti-Lincoln.
Really?
They were. It was when you watch Gangs in New York.
They're
and you
that
see,
dedicated to being Democrats?
It was, good old Dixiecrats. That's where it all comes from, man. And by the way, when we talk politics here, guys, we're going to say political parties' names. None of them actually mean anything because every 30 years they take on a new identity. Politics is like Madonna. You got to figure out what phase you're in, okay?
Yeah.
Are you in the Vogue era of Republicanism, or are you in the Madonna's British Now Democrat era? We don't know. But this guy is a straight shooter, and it's actually probably what ended his life a little early. There's plenty of red flags here. This guy never would have made it as a politician, even in his lifetime, which we're going to get into the zeitgeist in a little bit.
Go.
So, you hear our drop now? They gave us a zeitgeist drop. Now, when you find out that there is only one movie that really tells the story of General George Patton, you have a legitimate hard time figuring out what parts of his life the movie's going to focus on. Anyone who knows the deal with Patton in World War II knows that he's instrumental. You don't beat the Nazis without this guy, okay? To a point where even the Germans and the Nazi high command were scared of and or respected him. So it's what is that when your enemies even respect you?
Well, they know who the best general was on the opposite side, and that was Georgie.
It was like playing against Jordan. It was Patrick Ewing
right.
is sitting there. He goes, that's Larry Bird had the best quote ever. He goes, that's not Michael Jordan. That's Jesus Christ disguised as Michael Jordan.
Playing basketball.
Mm-hmm. So now his life is pretty nuts and hard to navigate. He's a distant relative to George Washington. So he goes all the way back to, the founding of the country. He's a World War II icon. He's larger than life. And my grandfather, the great Marty Boyajian, he fought under his command. So Patton was his general during the Battle of the Bulge, which is probably Patton's, I would say, one of his finest moments.
One of his high water marks.
100% on that one.
The Third Army was the one that went in and rescued the guys that were surrounded at Bastogne.
That's right. That's another great quote from Band of Brothers, though, when the 101st Airborne says, how do you guys feel about getting rescued by Patton? He goes, we didn't ask him to rescue us.
We didn't ask for help.
Yeah, well, I think we had everybody just where we wanted them. But
yeah.
So he also helped develop, and by the way, loser devotees know that we did a great episode on General George Patton, so we're not going to cover his early life. His life's insane. Brief recap for you guys if you don't remember, or if this is your first time being really exposed to him. Brief recap, because this whole episode is about the death of Patton. His last couple of years on Earth are some of the most tumultuous things I've ever heard in my life, and he said things and did things that would make Kanye West blush. Let's be clear. So, Patton also helped develop mobile cavalry warfare. He helped the American Army hunt for Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
He fights in World War I. Saves the American effort in Europe for World War II, gave us some of the greatest quotes of all time, helped popularize Jeep Wranglers. So next time you see a suburban white lady who's got to drive around in a 4-door Jeep, she's just trying to be Patton. That's all you're trying to do, lady. But and by the way, he stands out in a list of generals too, because he had some he had flair. We'll call it flair, Dad.
Yeah.
What was his special uniform items that he had?
Oh, the ivory handled revolvers.
That's
was,
right.
one of his, and he wasn't too shy about wearing medals and just a silver helmet or a gold helmet.
He wanted you to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he could wear the scalps of his enemies that had fallen under his knife, he probably would have. But
Yeah, you're talking about that, going back to Pancho Villa, one of the early on little ruffles that he had was when they were hunting for Pancho Villa with Blackjack Pershing. That was the first motorized entry into motorized vehicle warfare, and he was in Dodge trucks. And
you hear that, Dodge?
They actually captured Pancho Villa's second in charge, right? Captured and killed. And then what did George do but strap the guy onto the fender of one of his Dodge trucks and drove him back to headquarters like
So,
he was a
trophy buck?
fresh shot deer, yeah.
Well, Mexico did get us back because I'm pretty sure they just took out the Brooklyn Bridge a couple days ago.
That's right. They were trying.
But
Sabotage.
by the way, did you know that ship, the Mexican ship that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, that was the MSS-13? That was the... Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote that on a piece of paper at work. I was like, this isn't going to work. No, let's say I got a Harrington laugh in the... We're good. Harrington laughed in the booth. We're good.
We got a laugh out of the booth anyhow.
But yes, so he's part of everything that's rapid moving. Warfare is changing. People aren't standing up in pitched battles anymore and just, okay, now you guys shoot your shot, then we'll shoot our shot. It's getting modern. And as we talked about with everything in history, technology works in two ways. We invent something, and then the question is asked by man, okay, by mankind. Can we use this to kill somebody, or should we have sex with it? It's
right.
It really,
one of the two.
It's sick, but that's kind of what it boils down to. But we did cover him once. We did a great episode on him, and that's why we wanted to just focus on the death over here, because we got rushed, because at our old studio, they used to double book people all the time, and I'm pretty sure an entire podcast left the network because we couldn't stop talking about Patton. So,
Okay.
But Patton does not fit into any sort of a box. He's literally an American original, and that's for better or for worse, okay? Because you got a lot of American originals out there. Sometimes they're absolute heroes. Sometimes they're like, okay, well, the Unabomber was an American original, Dad.
You're right.
So,
One of a kind, hopefully.
yeah, hopefully you guys checked out that episode, man. Very proud of that one, and we got so much more great stuff coming out for you here. But diving into this topic here, what I'm going to talk about today is where Patton gets a little scattered. And what do you mean, and what do you do, by the way, when you're a warrior? He is a warrior. The fight is all he has. What do you do when you're a warrior and there's no more war to fight? So, post-war Patton, he gets a little intense in a hurry, Dad. Is that fair to say?
That's very accurate, very accurate.
I think you said it perfect with the Roddy Piper quote from They Live. He's out of bubble gum, and now he's out of asses to kick, too.
Yeah.
So if you want to know all about Patton before and during World War II, check out our back catalog, which is available when you subscribe to Gas Digital Network. Again, promo code LOSER. That's how I get paid. That's how I can afford the Easy Pass that I got to get off of on, let's go over here. We'll figure it out. Patton is sometimes supremely heroic. And in our modern times, he's remembered and very much revered. He's also quite problematic. In my dumb, typical New Jersey way, that's all I am, guys. I'm a Navy veteran from New Jersey that does blue-collar work during the day and occasionally features for Robert Kelly on the road. That's about my career in a nutshell, okay? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to liken Patton after victory in Europe is declared. So we're starting our episode at the end of World War II. Victory in Europe has been declared over here. Victory in Japan is not yet come, right? So I'm going to equate this to Patton after that is like Lawrence Taylor after Bill Parcells left the Giants. Okay, you have this one-of-a-kind animal that's built for destruction, and then you're like, hey, by the way, Parcells is gone, and LT's like, so I can smoke crack now? Is that what you're telling me?
Post LT.
Parcells had a game plan, but Lawrence Taylor was a weapon unlike anything the NFL had ever seen. Just ask Joe Theismann. Parcells is kind of like Dwight Eisenhower. He's running the show, and he had to deliver a victory. In Ike's case, it was as Supreme Allied Commander, which is a pretty big deal to have an American general running the show.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, you got all these guys that have been fighting the war for years, the Brits, the French, and everybody else in between. And now the Americans come into it, and they put Ike in charge of the whole Allied command. So
A little bit of a daddy's home kind of
that's
moment.
right.
All right,
Now
let
I'll
us
show
know
you-
when you guys get serious.
Now I'll show you how to beat these crowds.
That's a Sopranos quote right there. Next time you come in here, you come heavy. You don't come at all.
That's right.
So the early parts of the American War in Europe, it's not going very well. But Patton seemed to be the plug-in answer. You're like, oh, what do we do? More Patton, more Patton. We've got problems in North Africa. Rommel is beating our balls off. For the listeners, real quick, Dad, who is General Erwin Rommel?
He was probably one of the finest German generals. That their tank warfare guy was Rommel, and in the movie Patton, you can see one of the scenes where Patton is finally in North Africa now beating Rommel, and he's like, "I read your book, you son of a bitch."
That's the gimmick.
Yeah, right.
It was it. They studied each other.
Yeah.
Rommel had the utmost respect. By the way, if you want to talk about Rommel, I know it's very complicated and tricky to talk about the heroes of the German war because we throw that Nazi word on all of them. And don't get me wrong, Rommel was a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party. However, he did die in an attempt to betray and overthrow Hitler.
In mysterious ways too. That his death was also shrouded in some mystery or speculation as to other events that took place.
Well, they say there is that rumor that Hitler might have been secretly gay because there was a whole profile that they put together on him, which was done by guys that later created MK Ultra. So there's our MK Ultra plug for the week. It's our pulling thread that we go through. But if Hitler was a gay guy, he goes, "Why am I not getting all the credit for this? I'm working so hard. I don't understand. It's Rommel, Rommel, Rommel." But we've got problems over in North Africa because Rommel is beating our balls off. Send in Patton, get results. You got to invade Sicily, send in Patton, get results. We've pulled off D-Day. How are we going to take back the rest of France? Send in Patton, get results. Battle of the Bulge. Patton yet again out there getting results.
Yeah, and that whole D-Day thing too. I mean, although Patton wasn't directly involved with D-Day because once he invaded Sicily and was very successful in Sicily, he happened to slap a couple of GIs because they were battle fatigued.
Did you know this, Harrington? That this what he straight up bitch slapped two soldiers.
I was gonna, if you came to me at all, I was gonna say the only thing I know about Patton's life is the speech, and then that he slapped a private and got like in a lot of trouble for it.
Yeah. So nowadays we would treat PTSD a little bit more seriously, but back then Patton's like, "Hey, come on, pussy, what are you doing
Yeah, he's
here?"
just chicken shit. Let's get back into the game. But and then the Germans, there was a whole media uproar over that Patton slapped these two GIs post Sicily, and the Germans just couldn't believe that they were going to take out one of their finest generals, take him out of command, simply because he slapped a couple of guys. But the Allies used that to their advantage because then they came up with this whole ghost army thing, and they made Patton seemingly in charge of this ghost army. And the ghost army was just a fictitious bunch of intelligence to bullshit. It was a bullshit factor to the Germans.
You mean misinformation?
Yeah, there you go, misinformation. That once we were successful in the invasion of Sicily, the Germans knew that we were coming into Europe. But it was they couldn't figure out whether we were going to come into southern France, whether we were going to come into Greece, or whether we were going to come in even into Norway or Denmark. And they had Patton on this tour flying all over the place, flying to Egypt because that's where the invasion would come if they were going to go into Greece. They had him going all over the place, and they devised this whole fictitious ghost army and put Patton in charge of this ghost army that was supposedly was like thousands upon thousands of guys with rubber tanks and artificial
all this fake
airport.
inflatable stuff here.
Yeah.
And then, but here, if you want to have a bullshit army, you put a no bullshit guy in charge of it.
That's
And now
right.
Hitler's losing sleep at night.
Right. They're wondering, well, where is Patton going to strike next? Is he, where are they going to come? So now the Germans are deploying troops all over Europe, trying to anticipate where the Allies might invade next, and that's just making life easier for the eventual invasion at Normandy, because they let it be known, false information let the Germans think that we're actually going to come into Calais, and Patton is going to be leading the charge on that. So now they're
Scared the
sending
crap
all
out of
kinds
them.
and it was even after D-Day, after the invasion at Normandy, the Germans still couldn't believe. They thought that was just a feint. That was just a fictitious invasion, that the real invasion was going to come into Calais, and, Patton was going to be leading the charge.
So you pulled off D-Day, and then you're still scared of what this guy's going to do.
Right.
Mike Harrington has a Cheshire Cat grin on right now.
Well, didn't they use a magician for that?
Magician, I don't know about, but
For the
nothing was
inflatable
out of
army.
Honest to God, nothing's out of the realm of possibility with that one, because they were just like, what disinformation can we throw in there to make sure that we just get these guys off their. They were a little too cocky. The Germans were cocky, and you had to sit there and take away their confidence. So a magician might do that.
I will look into this because I'm convinced there was a magician who knew like mirrors and painting tricks to make it look like they had thousands of tanks parked at one spot, and it was like 2 tanks.
Yeah, they had the group that Patton was really put in charge of was only like 2,000 guys, but they were posing as like thousands upon thousands of guys, and they had Hollywood set producers that they were making up these false
Back
sets.
when
They had
Hollywood liked
rubber
America.
tanks, and they had a false landing or port. They had all kinds of stuff, and they were constantly moving it around, thinking that it's all over England as their jump-off point for the eventual invasion, and it was just a bunch of bullcrap. But yeah, they had set designers and all kinds of things happening that were really just Hollywood make-believe.
We pulled it off on that, and again, put Patton
Kind
in
of like
charge.
a green screen with
A green screen and a fake bar
that
that we're
you're
not in.
sitting yeah, that kind of a thing.
Well, the Times needed a man with Patton's abilities, and just like a Jersey state trooper that has pulled over a clearly intoxicated Lawrence Taylor with several hookers and coke in his car, Ike Eisenhower had to look the other way and get his warrior general back to the business of making Hitler lose sleep at night. So Patton had made many political enemies, but he had no political ambition, so it didn't matter to him as long as he had a war to fight, which is where his downfall kind of comes in. His war in Europe ends on May 8th, 1945, which is VE Day, as in Victory in Europe Day, which is not to be confused with VD Day, which is Venereal Disease Day, which is celebrated every Memorial Day weekend in Seaside Heights. VE Day means the war in Europe is over. Hitler killed himself on April 30th, and Patton now realizes he's nearing the end of his military career. He starts to showcase some strange emotions. Patton openly felt that now that Europe was won, his only true purpose in life is to head over to Japan. But he was quoted as, this is a pretty good quote. Patton is a good quote anytime you need him. I think that's why I compared him to Parcells. They both had that no bullshit attitude, He goes, well, they already have a star over there, meaning General MacArthur, and there's only one star in the big show. So literally that's what he thought of war. He goes, the big show, I'm coming up, It's
The big game.
Well, Patton tried like hell to get involved with the Pacific Theater, but unlike his own lack of political ambitions, a lot of generals, some at the front and some back home, had already begun preparing for their next career steps after the war. And Eisenhower, by the way, just for reference, Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander, there's that great joke that the Americans and the Brits would play on each other. Remember the good quote about, when I tell you the opening joke, you say the punchline. You'll remember this when I say it. When the Americans were training for D-Day in England rather, the British troops would say, the problem with you
Americans?
The problem with you Americans
The Yanks,
is
yeah.
that you're oversexed.
No, they were overpaid,
oversexed,
and over here.
And over here. He goes, that's it. So, and then the American response to that was, the problem with you Brits is that you're underpaid, undersexed, and under Eisenhower. Which is a pretty great joke.
Yeah, and then your thing about a lot of these generals are now preparing for their next career move, which is probably going to go into politics. 3 days after VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, Eisenhower called all his major generals together and said, hey, listen, we're not going to make any public announcements about different things that happened during the war, that this guy misstepped here, this guy should have done this guy was an asshole with this particular move, that everybody's going to keep mum on what their opinions might have been, what other guys should have done or might have done. And George Patton didn't quite follow those rules that Eisenhower was putting forth. So
he's got again, he's here to fight wars, and one war ended. He's trying to get himself into Japan, and they're not letting him do it. And by the way, just give a little bit of a timeline on this one. Eisenhower is legitimately the president of the United States less than 10 years after the war ends. So his moves now are 10 years, prior to what is eventually going to be him becoming, the president of the United States. So Patton pressed heavy to get assigned to the Pacific, but the orders never come through. Logistics are cited as the reason, but politics played super heavy into it. Patton knew this, but came back home to the U.S. hoping for one more war to fight. He's given speeches. He's honored with mass crowds. He's a celebrity. Huge parades, but he also managed to piss off a couple of Gold Star mothers saying, well, the wounded are the heroes, the dead, I find, are frequently fools. Yeah, not quite the...
not what a grieving mother wants to hear, that your son was a fool for getting killed.
Yeah, there's a wounded guy over there who's way smarter than your dumb son that just died. So, yeah, a little bit of a rough one on that. So, Patton is definitely still a celebrity on aura alone, but I'm sure if he had been assigned a media relations specialist back then, they would have worked. It's kind of like having Kanye West's agent, like, hey, let's do damage control. Delete his Twitter. Patton does not get to fight in the Pacific. He's very upset at the news of VJ Day, which is the official end to the war, and he's quoted as saying, yet another war has ended, and with it, my usefulness to the world. He
had a one-track mind that he's here as a warrior, and he's here to fight and to win for the United States. And
it's like when Skankfest finally ends, if it ever does. I hope it never does. But if the final Skankfest happens, they should just have a picture of Lewis with a tear running down his cheek as he's cuffed, like he looks back and there's all the garbage on the ground from it, like that Native American commercial.
Oh, right.
That would be pretty kismet there. But it's crazy because this is his life's work. That's the whole thing. This war is his life's work. Patton is going. First of all, it's weird. He's not only going back to Europe now, he's going back to Germany and Bavaria in particular. Now, what's worth mentioning about Bavaria over here, I had it explained to me. I'm going to name drop again. I'm sorry, I don't care. I love him to death. He's been nothing but great to me. Chris DiStefano went over to Germany, and he was explaining to me, he goes, there's like 5 different Germanys. Which is true because Germany...
Different sections, right.
Yeah, so when you're in Bavaria, he goes, that's kind of like the South. That's where like the true believers were like, oh, we create BMW. We created this. We have the perfect, our culture is better than other people's. We're tired of pretending it isn't. And then you go to Berlin and everybody's gay. That's what I understood him to say. Maybe I'm confusing it. And I know this because I was in Germany for 2 hours on a layover flight.
Right, there you go.
I was in Leipzig, Germany, on a flight home from Dubai with the Navy. And what did I do, Dad?
Duty-free port.
I bought it. Yep, duty-free port. And what did I do? I bought absinthe and brought it home for everybody. But anyway, he gets over to Bavaria in particular, and it's during this time that Patton's behavior becomes more and more erratic, leading to some of the biggest controversies of his life, and ultimately his death. So it's American Loser. We're killing the main character here, folks. Before heading back to Bavaria, Patton had been part of a meeting with Eisenhower and the other generals, and that's what you were saying, Dad, that Patton said, it's getting a little too political over here. So here's where it goes off the rails in a hurry. He has that meeting where they say, guys, we need calm now. All right, it's like Goodfellas. He goes, we need calm. We've had the crazy.
Right.
Time for calm. Start thinking about your next step. What's it going to be? And Patton's like, what if we fight Russia?
Not Russia, the commies. He was
very
absolutely
against them.
Hated the Russians or the communists, and was afraid that if we did not go to war with the communists right then and there at the close of the Second World War, that all our fighting would have been for naught because all the Germans would have gone to communists. If we beat the Germans back into the ground like we did after the First World War in reprisals, that that whole country is then just going to go to the communist side, and we're going to be back here in another couple of years fighting them again. When
well, that was what happened in World War I,
Yeah.
which Patton was also a part of. So
Right.
he watched it happen. We're like, hey, if we just set them. And by the way, same thing happened in Iraq. You have Desert Storm, and they're like, oh, we've set it up now that it'll take them 10 years to rebuild. And then boom, what happens? 10 years later, we're like, oh, his son's back now. Okay, so yeah, HW started so that HW crawled rather so that W could run.
there you go.
But here's where it gets crazy. Patton now becomes the military governor of Bavaria. He's got no more wars to fight. He doesn't want to be stateside. Doesn't seem like he has any political aspirations. He's also had lifelong concussions and brain injuries, which begin to show themselves. For lack of a better term, he's having mood swings and very Antonio Brown-like behavior starts emerging, okay? Let me start by saying Patton's job in Germany is that he's still in charge of the U.S. troops remaining. That's why he wants to be there with his guys, the Third Army. That's his pride and joy.
Right. That's his leadership role in the army, but he's also put in as military governor of Bavaria.
And his job is peacekeeping and something called denazification. So denazification, it's like it's kind of denazification is essentially if you watch American History X and you just you watch Edward Norton sit there and realize, okay, maybe these true beliefs weren't really my true beliefs, got to figure out my thing here. And then denazification was they were supposed to say, how do we bring Germany back into the fold in a way that's going to agree we don't have to come do this again in 30 years. So denazification is the Allied plan to ensure that the Nazis didn't rally and cause more problems in Europe. This included having war criminal trials in Nuremberg, removing Nazi supporters from political positions, and ending the influence of Nazi propaganda. Now, Patton gets accused of being a little soft on the Nazis, folks, and historians will agree that there are a bevy of reasons for these. Number one, Patton says, he goes, I have respect for the soldiers that I fought against. He's trying to have a soldier's agreement with these people, right? Patton feels compassion because he's now living in war-torn Germany. He's seeing what happens when total war comes to town. Patton does not want to remove Nazi party affiliates from government positions because he knows that means his own soldiers are going to have to take over jobs like providing utilities, running a post office, and he wants his soldiers ready for another war, even though it's quite obvious that Patton wasn't going to get back into combat ever again. He goes, my soldiers are soldiers. We're not here to run your town for you.
He's not, again, he's a warrior, and his army are warriors that he didn't want guys that were trained to go to war. They're now going to be running the sanitation department and the public works department and, all those kinds of things. And to remove the people that knew how those different operations worked happened to be Nazis because that's who was running the show before Patton came into power in Bavaria.
Absolutely. And by the way, if I found out that my mailman was a Nazi, is the mail getting there on time? Okay. I don't want him able to sweep. I don't want him making any public speeches. I don't want him hanging out in a beer hall having a pooch or anything. But if the mail is getting there on time, maybe I'll look the other way on some very weird political opinions you have. It's what we do in comedy all the time whenever I have to work in Brooklyn. But anyway, a family friend of Patton's, by the way, and this is why it is important here. Patton is the grandson and grandnephew of two Confederate officers that were killed by the Union during the Civil War. A family friend of Patton used to visit a very young George and tell him stories about the war between the states. So we joke about the Confederate flag up there in the corner, though. It's a different story when you get it from the view of the South. And there's times you're able to have some sympathy for them. There's times you're able to have some empathy for them. And then, again, we always say this all the time, too. It's not hard to say this. People shouldn't own other people. That's the bottom line, folks.
We here at American Loser are firmly against slavery.
Yes, my father has taken the brave step of being against slavery here. We hope you'll join us. Sound off in the comments section. I know Runaway Slav is going to say, it depends on what kind of people. But we love you, Slav. You're a maniac. But now, Patton is interesting on this one, too, because he's getting these stories as a young boy from a guy named Colonel John Mosby, who was very controversial. We did a full episode on him, too, in the back catalog. Again, only available at Gas Digital Network. So his nickname was the Gray Ghost. Now imagine you're hearing stories as a child about the brave men and family members that fought on the losing side of the Civil War, and certainly Reconstruction was not very kind to the Confederates at certain times, okay? Certainly not kind to the recently freed slave populations. That's going to lead to a great migration. And all of a sudden, you're going to have flooding of people just trying to escape the terror of the Ku Klux Klan. Reconstruction era gets skipped over in your history book like nothing else, and that's the biggest crying shame.
Yes.
Because I would say that ethics and civics are things that need to be more focused on in school. That's the way that you can solve stuff. And by the way, maybe send some kids to wood shop, all right? Larry Burke's a retired shop teacher, right? And his own son used
Give
to
them some
fill it.
skills to graduate high school with that they can go out and make a living
Right.
rather than
And this
flunk
is
out
me.
of college.
This is me, your son talking right now, who literally used a Phillips head screwdriver to I tried to prop open a window with it the other day because I like go get a flathead. I'm like, I don't know where it is. But the point of this whole part of the story is that he's able to have empathy for the Germans because he's likening them to his own family that suffered post-Civil War era. Now, Patton is making as much noise as possible to get into a war with Russia. Isn't that a shocker, too, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the worst aging quotes I've ever heard in my life was I remember when Obama was running against Mitt Romney, and Romney keeps talking about Russia. Russia's a problem. And Barack Obama, who, by the way, he was a great quote. He's a great soundbite guy. A very charismatic president, and he did his little mic drop thing on this one. He goes, "Well, I would tell Governor Romney that it's the 1980s called, and they want their foreign policy back." Russia's been in the news every day ever since that comment. Okay, it's one of the worst aging quotes ever. Russia's been a problem. They've been a thorn in our side for forever. So Patton knows this, and if you listen to Patton, I don't know if that story gets a little different or a little bit worse. Typically, fighting a land war in Russia during the winter doesn't go well historically.
Historically, yeah.
Okay.
Ask Napoleon about that one.
Yeah, it's like trying to play the Yankees at home in a 7-game series. But anyway, he even suggests, by the way, this is what's crazy about it. He wants to go to war with Russia so bad that he even suggests, he goes, we got a lot of former German soldiers just sitting here in these prisoner of war camps, or maybe some guys who are trying to rehabilitate into society. What if I get the German soldiers and they join forces with the Americans, and then we can fight the commies, right? Yeah. That's all he wants. He'll do whatever it takes to get himself a war over here. And most importantly, number 6, our 6th and final point about this one guy, Patton has been, possibly while still alive, more on that in a second, he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. So he is, I'm right, you're wrong, get out of my way, let me do it my way, why'd you just screw that up kind of a thing. He is a force of war in nature, but in peace, he's a little bit out of place. Wants this war with Russia, describes Russians in memos, by the way, literally his actual documented memos. He says stuff about Russians that Mel Gibson would be like, dude, do you need to go? Let's get you to a meeting. Let's get you to a meeting, okay?
Right. Knowing that you have a problem is the first step.
Get off the bath salts, General Patton, okay? But Patton's fears are that by destroying the Germans post-war, like you said, Dad, it's going to lead to Russia being able to swallow them whole. And he commended the Germans. He literally called the Germans, who he just fought a multi-year war against. He goes, these are the only good people in Europe. Kind of weird when you allied with France and England, but
right.
A little bit of a weird comment there. But
John Q. Public has taken German and Nazi as one and the same, so you're not fighting the Germans, you're fighting the Nazis.
If you want to be scared of the Nazis, look into what the true believers were all about. They're terrifying, okay? But then the regular German people that were like, oh, this is my country, I'm going to fight for them, or maybe they weren't given the full story. Maybe their government lied to them. Is that possible? I'm not quite sure. But it is worth noting here that Patton has some comments about Jewish people during this time that would literally turn Mel Gibson's face white. Like, dude, meeting now. Get out of here. Okay, Stop doing interviews. Patton did not have much use for, and keep in mind, this is the displaced Jewish peoples. These are not Jewish people that are living in their, living their normal day-to-day life. They've all been displaced. They're all thrown into different areas from where they were. A lot of them don't even know if their family members are still alive. So they're essentially, I'm going to I'll give Patton the out on this one. He's referring to them more as a homeless problem, right? Because they don't know what they're dealing with on this one. It's a displaced people's problem. So his fear, by the way, again, no real use for them. He keeps them in obviously better conditions, but he still keeps them in camps. Not the greatest move, not the best look.
Yeah, but at the same time, what other options did he really have? But that's another argument that we can look at, 60 years later and say, well, he didn't handle that very well. But
Yes, we're not Monday morning
Yeah.
morning quarterbacking this, because his fears at the time was whether it would be from desperation or retaliation against the Germans, or from leaking info to the Soviets, that these displaced people will do anything because they're desperate. They've literally been taken out of concentration camps or labor camps, sometimes one and the same,
Right.
and they are. They're now just being told, like, oh, by the way, I hope you can find food tonight. So at least in the camps, you're able to get 3 hots and a cot, as you would say.
Yeah.
You know. Now Eisenhower rebukes him for his treatment of the Jews, and most historians would call Patton. It's pretty fair to say you can't say the things that he's saying and not have the word anti-Semitic attached to it.
Right.
Okay. Other historians show that he doesn't care much for the press in Germany, as he describes them as having a very Semitic influence. And he claimed it was kind of a subversive from within type of a tactic that they had. Patton routinely said some wild things about the displaced Jews in Germany, calling them, quote, barely human, locust-like, and lost to all decency. Again, he's referring to them as homeless people. This isn't like, oh, there's a nice Jewish shopkeeper down the road and he's an animal.
Yeah.
He's talking about these people that have been treated like animals for years and have maybe lost their sense of humanity, because it's kind of hard to come back into modern society when you're like, oh, by the way, I'm
been
2 countries over from where I was, and I'm pretty sure that you're telling me to go hang out and make peace with the people that just cooked my grandmother.
Right.
You know, it's not an easy move.
And living in subhuman conditions to begin with, so for the past how many years? Since 1939.
Well, then he goes to Eisenhower comes over, and they go to a big Yom Kippur celebration attended by both Eisenhower and Patton. And Patton even commented, he goes, the smell of the Jewish people gathered there in the wooden synagogue forced me to vomit later that night. And you're like, dude, can you please stop putting this in writing, okay? Okay, just you can say it as an aside or something like that, but please stop tweeting this. Worth noting, by the way, the Third Army's historian, who also edited Patton's personal papers, described this time as the time in his mind where General Patton, a man he admired, had clearly become delusional. This Army historian also becomes the eventual biographer of Patton. His name is Martin Blumenson. Blumenson himself is an American kid born from Jersey. Jerseyception, folks, right? Jersey connection. There it is. He's also of Russian Jewish heritage. Keep in mind, Russian Jewish heritage. So imagine you have to read and hear and then edit some of the most disparaging marks imaginable from your own boss about not only his religious affiliation, but his ethnic homeland. He goes, just picture Patton. So he goes, I hate the Jews almost as much as I hate the Russians. You getting all of this, Blumenson? But in short, Patton found the Jews to be a problem for him, not because of outright hatred, but because of the hassle, and most importantly, it was preventing him from what he wanted to do, go to war with Russia. So
the commies, he wanted to kill the commies.
Kill commies. That's what it was. His
the
next
Mongols,
gimmick.
as he would call them.
He did not like the Russians. He was not a fan of the Russians whatsoever. He wanted war with them for geopolitical reasons, also a lifelong dislike of Russians, a feeling that his job wasn't complete in Europe yet, as in why did he and his men fight like hell to hand Germany over to the Russians? And the spot-on, simple answer, Patton is a warrior general with no more wars left to fight.
Yeah, and you got to remember, too, with the whole Russian thing, that to Patton's viewpoint, why not fight the Russians now? Weren't they aligned with Nazi Germany at the start of the Second World War? They were allies together.
Flip-floppers.
And then Hitler invaded Russia, and now all of a sudden Russia is going to be on our side. That, prior to that, we were fighting we weren't, because the Americans weren't in the war yet, but Nazi Germany and Communist Russia were allies at the start of the Second World War. Mm-hmm. I mean, both of them invaded Poland to start with, and things just went downhill after Uncle Adolf decided to attack the Russians.
It's weird. You can't trust artists. That's really what I've come into here. You know what I mean? You can't trust artists. Buy a street
paper
painting.
hangers.
Yeah, as Josie said,
Especially if they have a mustache.
Yeah, Chaplin really just went. Chaplin, pretty brave of him to stick with his look as long as he did. Now he's prone to mood swings. And if you want to add a little bit more fuel to the mental illness fire, it is around this time in Bavaria that General Patton begins to brag openly that he's banging his niece. Yep. I'm just going to give that a pregnant pause for a second here, folks.
Let that sink in.
American hero General George Patton is now telling everybody, he goes, "You guys know I banged my niece, right? What do you mean?" Now, to be fair, it's a niece through marriage, but this is still a wild thing to say. Some people thought it was just Patton trying to sound cool, like when I was in 5th grade and I told everybody that my Uncle Nick let me look at Ginger Spice's Playboy. He didn't, but I saw he had one, and I was too afraid to open it while I was staying at his house. But I did tell everybody at school, like, "Oh, yeah, my Uncle Nick let me look at Ginger Spice's boobs." The truth appears to be somewhere in the middle. Jean Gordon,
the niece,
was in fact Patton's niece via marriage, and many people, including Patton's own wife, were convinced that she had been involved in a long romantic relationship with the general. The rumors persisted so long that Patton was having an affair. Two things that didn't help these rumors were the part where Patton starts bragging about it to anybody who would listen. Some argue he's still just trying to prove he could get his dick up in a very pre-Blue Chew America, okay?
Right.
Patton's like, I don't have to go to the gas station or anything. I'm busy banging my niece, guys.
He's still the viral guy that, as a 60-year-old, he can still get it up with banging his niece, and his niece on his wife's side, and it's long suspected that he was involved with her for a whole lot longer than just at the close of the Second World War. That the niece actually went with the family, with his 2 daughters, to Hawaii back in the 30s, back like in 39, and that's when it was first suspected that George and Jean
Uncle
Gordon,
Georgie.
Yeah, Uncle Georgie, they were getting it on, and this niece, Jean Gordon, she was actually the bridesmaid, part of the bridal party of Patton's 2 daughters' wedding. So there was a close-knit family, we'll say.
I believe it's another Tony Soprano quote, which I will fit in anywhere I can. He goes, "Every married guy's got a side piece." That's what he says. Oh, by the way, you ever cheat on my mom?
No.
Good answer.
Firm no.
No way. You don't want an angry Armenian lady. We all learned that one, right? The other wild part is how when Jean, this is what's going to add fuel to the fire of these rumors, when Jean gets back to America, which is a few weeks after Patton's death, which we're about to get to, she gets confronted by Patton's wife, Beatrice, who, by the way, was a little bit of... Patton loved her, but he was also like, "Guys, I got another war, man. Can we please have another war? Because I can't live with this woman.
Yeah.
I can't live with her."
Anything to get out of the house.
That's right. It's like when I was thinking about taking another job. I took a shit gig the other night at Stress Factory because I was just like, I deserve a night out by myself. You know what I mean? Sure, it's a shitty corporate gig right now over at maybe it's $100 feature pay, and I got to hang out for 3 more hours than I need to. But I got paid in salmon and Salisbury steak. Jean, by the way, after this confrontation where Patton's wife says, "Hey, I know everything that was going on, and you got a lot to answer for," Jean commits suicide via asphyxiation from a gas stove in her friend's apartment right here on our very same island of Manhattan right now, Mr. Harrington. So
yeah, now Patton has already died at this point.
It's
though.
After Patton's death that she winds up killing herself.
And she was very distraught at the death of Patton, but there was others that would say she was very distraught over somebody else that she was making time with that had been shipped back home, and now she was left in Europe. She was involved with the Red Cross. That was her reason for being over in Europe at the time, during the war. That
she was a nurse. So when Carly brings up a photo, I want the nurse from the Blink-182 album, Enema of the State, to be brought up as what her picture looked like.
Yeah, and Patton made sure that she was stationed close to 3rd Army headquarters. For her time served over in Europe with the Red Cross. But anyhow.
Keep in mind, by the way, this gas stove asphyxiation that she uses to kill herself, she does it in her friend's apartment, which, guys, never let a friend crash at your place. That's all I can say.
Especially if they're distraught.
Okay? If you're thinking about folks, number 1, don't do it. Number 2, don't do it at a friend's house if they're letting you crash. That's pretty cool of them, okay? And number 3, if you insist on doing it, do the honorable thing and get an Airbnb.
Yeah, what was also interesting, too, is Beatrice Patton, Patton's widow, visited her a couple of days before she committed suicide. So, is there an ultimatum? The conspiracy theorists can just take that to wherever they want to take it. But,
Well, the final detail, too, is that when her body is found and made quite obvious, she had surrounded herself by photos of General George Patton, who she referred to as Uncle Georgie. Make of that what you will. Let me know in the comments section here, folks, what you guys think about that one. Was that foul play, or did she actually do it? I don't know. Now, on to the whole Patton getting too cozy with the Nazis thing. This is terrifying. Eisenhower is so horrified by some of Patton's comments, especially the ones where Patton compares the Nazi party. He goes, it's just like America. We got Democrats, we got Republicans. You know, it's like a thing. They got to fight each other. You know, it's
a
not
political
real.
party. It's
Ike goes nuts, and he goes, dude, you're going to have a press conference tomorrow, and you're going to apologize. Patton has the press conference. Just says it again. He goes, yeah, the Nazis are like Democrats and Republicans. Dude, what are you doing? He is as tumultuous as when Antonio Brown was trying to get off the Raiders. It's literally, it's so similar to that one. That does it, by the way. He gets relieved of command by Ike and claims that America is now fighting the wrong enemy. He goes, yeah, we're fighting the wrong enemy. The Russians are right over there, and we're going to beat up the Germans, who are actually pretty cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, and it was Ike, too, that prevented Patton from going in and taking as much territory out of Germany. That, slow down, because we got to let the Russians come in and take part of Berlin. And it was a whole political thing at the close of the Second World War, too, that, we weren't allowed to fight our best because we had to make sure that we were politically correct with the other people that were fighting in the war, but and led to the division of Berlin and all that kind of thing. So, was Patton accurate in saying that maybe we're going to fight these guys here and now, or should we wait a couple of years and go into a Cold War when we have nuclear war to worry about as well?
Yeah, you want to listen to him when he's right and then be like, hey, do you really mean what you said here, George? Are you really serious about that part? But this is very, very, very important to mention. According to the general, we're too busy punishing Germany when we could have been fighting Russia this whole time. Now, if you want to sit there and I don't know if you guys believe in the concept of evil and that evil can kind of suck you in or something like that, or you're not sure about the things that have power. So if you want to go to this mythologically evil place that a lot of the German ideology for the Nazi high command comes from, while living in Bavaria, where he is now the military governor, Patton takes residence in Lake Tegernsee, which is the SS summer home for many of the SS elite. Okay, it's like the Jersey Shore for the SS elite.
Right. And the SS were the
true believers.
The true believers, the true Nazis for sure.
So the house that Patton stays in during this time, gorgeous house, has an indoor pool, all sorts of modern amenities here. This is where he's living. Okay, was formerly owned by. This is nuts. If you want to believe that evil can exist in a place like the Insidious movies or something like that, where it follows you, a haunted house. The house that Patton is living in when he's starting to get a little too soft on the Nazis is formerly owned by Max Amann, who was a devout Nazi who had been removed from his home before Patton's occupation, of course. He was living in a labor camp at this time. Most chilling is that some people might recognize the name Max Amann as not only an SS elite who was sentenced to 10 years in a labor camp for his complicity in all of the German war crimes, he was also, Mike Harrington, the publisher of Mein Kampf. So he's living in the publisher of Mein Kampf's house. He goes, yeah, these Germans aren't so bad, guys. Did you read the book? Did you read it?
It's the house that Mein Kampf built. You know what I mean? You sell enough copies, what are you buying? But the Shore House.
Yeah.
100%, man. It's a little bit, there's an Amityville horror vibe in here, too. The house has a life of its own. But yes, folks, that's right. That damned cowboy general that Hitler feared was now being seen as soft on the Nazis. He's living in a house that the publisher of Mein Kampf once owned. He wants a war with Russia, but after comments downplaying the Nazi party to politics, Ike kicks his ass out, relieves him of command, but not before they had, number one, ample reason to do so. Oddly enough, Patton's section of Germany seemed to be the best contained in terms of post-war Germany, so Patton was actually doing a good job, even though they were hating what he was doing back in America. Not before they legitimately tapped Patton's phones, started illegally reading his mail, and even secretly had a guy by the name of Dr. James K. Pollock a psychiatrist do a covert assessment on Patton to best decide if he had legitimately lost his mind or if Patton was up to something wild, or even worse, had Patton fallen under the spell of Germany.
Yeah.
They're very charming people, all right? All right? You know, for sure, Patton is going to be giving a couple of people reasons to doubt him. Was it head injuries? Was it the old war dog not willing to play nice with politics? Regardless of all that, folks, it leads here, December 9th, 1945. What's going to happen here, Dad?
He's going to be invited to go on a hunting trip, and he's very despondent.
Pheasant hunting. Okay. We've said some wild shit on the show so far.
Russians, but he's very despondent. He's already lost command of the Third Army, which was his big thing, and he's put in charge of like the 15th, which was in charge of writing the history of the Second World War. So he's in charge of a bunch of writers, guys that have never heard a bullet whiz past their head and never saw a battle, never fired a gun, kind of a thing.
Because all the vets have been sent home on points.
Yeah, because they've already been sent home. The vast majority of guys
double points, Harrington,
who actually did any of the fighting have already been sent home. But he's asked if he wants to go on a pheasant hunt by an old friend of his, and that's absolutely that's more fun than sitting around the office.
Certainly,
dealing with these rider dudes.
Well, now he's driving through his regular driver, whose nickname was Jeep. Pretty cool nickname. All right, drove the Jeep around. Patton helped popularize the Jeep, as we said. But the important thing is this. His old driver gets sent home on points, so he's got a relatively new driver. And they're driving through Speyer, Germany. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But he notes Patton is sitting there watching like all the destruction. There's cars parked alongside the road that are destroyed. There's carnage. And he goes, I've never realized just how truly awful war is. So he's having moments of clarity here, too. Now, moments after he says that, his vehicle gets struck by a U.S. Army truck that was being driven by Robert Thompson of Camden, New Jersey. Another Jersey Yep, Camden, New Jersey. Now, this accident, I feel like you're about to jump in there.
No, go ahead.
So the accident doesn't have any immediate casualties, but General Patton does not recover from these injuries, and he will die December 21st, just a few weeks later. Once he was told he would never be able to ride a horse again, he grew up on a horse, loved it. It was his favorite thing. That's why the only reason he stopped riding a horse is because they said you can't take horses into battle anymore. He goes, what about a Jeep? Can I get a Jeep? Yes, we'll get you whatever you want, dude. Yeah. A tank, whatever you're into.
Dodge truck.
That's a Dodge Ram, Dodge Ram 1500.
And with that whole horse riding thing, I mean, that goes back to his early days in the cavalry, that he took a lot of shots to the melon, falling off of horses and banging his head. So that's why
he probably
there
had
was
CP.
suspicions that he had some concussions that just get up and walk it off kind of a thing back then,
Yeah, it was a little different.
And even in the car accident, he was the only guy that was really injured in that car accident, because that's pre-seat belts, and he got slammed against the glass and got a little bit of a cut. And the guy that had invited him to the pheasant hunt, he's like, Patton sensed that he lost feeling. He was paralyzed. He was asking the guy, squeeze my fingers, and he said, go, and the guys did it, and they're like, go ahead, start now, do it. And he
would have been the greatest joke ever if he goes, squeeze my finger, and just rips a sweet fart right here.
You go,
just
pull
kidding,
my
guys,
finger.
it's all pad, little World War II humor for you.
Yeah.
But he's dying. He knows he's going to die. They tell him he's never going to ride a horse again, and he goes, well, this is a hell of a way to die. He's a warrior. He's supposed to die on a battlefield. He's like Lieutenant Dan. Now he's pissed off.
Yeah.
So Patton will die at the age of 60. For reference, Demi Moore is 62, and I still jerk it to her. Patton is offered, by the way, as an honor. This is a true honor they wanted to offer him, to have him buried in Napoleon's tomb alongside other great military heroes. This
by
is
the
a huge
French
honor. The
French government offers Napoleon's
right.
tomb. Right?
When they sit there like, hey, our great general, why don't you bury your great general with our great general? Because it was like a huge honor. And this is almost going to be the case until Beatrice is given the idea to bury General Patton in Luxembourg alongside men he had fought with and lost during his time in the Third Army.
Yeah, the American Cemetery in Luxembourg.
Yes, sir. And his cross in the cemetery faces his men, looking over them, which gives him a sense of mourning their loss in eternity, or as some suggest, preparing them for one more battle.
Yeah.
A pretty badass way to kind of live your life here.
I also read, too, that they moved his grave a couple of times within that cemetery because people were going in there and tearing stuff up, looking for souvenirs of Patton's grave and everything
Weird
else.
you would mention that. That's going to fall into something a little trippy over here. Worth noting, Patton, who is often called a racist, had a black soldier as his pallbearer and remarked, aside from some undeniably controversial statements, it does not matter your creed or color. If you're one of his soldiers, he loves you. So there's a reason why so many Patton soldiers were very loyal to. Grandpa Marty was, he bragged about fighting under Patton.
Right.
So now also, even after all the anti-Semitic behavior and press coverage at his funeral, and this is a very powerful photo that I know we're going to be able to edit in and post, 3 rabbis arrive at Patton's funeral, and they approach his coffin and pray over it. And they are wearing their concentration camp uniforms. So this is well after, they've been released. They put on the striped pajamas, the awful striped pajamas, and they pray over this man's grave. And when they get questioned by the press, why are you honoring a man with so many controversial comments and actions against the Jewish people? They answered very simply, if it wasn't for General Patton, this war would have gone on much longer. He saved more Jews by ending the war. The big picture for them was very simple. Patton is a flawed man, but his efforts ended the war and liberated them from the concentration camps. This is how I defend the movie Braveheart, by the way, folks. I'm going to get to our final thought here because it's a creepy, creepy story. We're almost out of time, LP, but I want to make sure that you hit any points that you didn't hit
No, we're
already.
good. We're good.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, man. I know this
I'll
guy.
just chime in after you put
He
the
just
crap on it.
he just wants to get over to McSorley's, folks. I promised him. I said one episode a month. You come into the city, I'll take you to McSorley's after. All right. Our final thought.
We'll podcast for a beer.
That's Hey, you just survived World War II. You fought in Sicily and Africa. Now you're in Germany and you're just biding your time. You're 1 point away. There's a point system for how you get sent home. If you did enough during the war, they're like, hey, we used you up. Thank you for your service. Why don't you go home to your family? We got new guys. That's the problem. The war goes on long enough. Every freshman class in high school is now becoming seniors. Time to join up, folks, right? You're 1 point away from getting home. And you're noticing a lot of looting going on. And there's quite a lot of money that can be made in this black market thing because people are buying up Nazi relics, Nazi art, paintings, historical artifacts, and also lots and lots of guns and ammo that obviously is going to be needed in the East and West Germany split. Right? And then also things that are cooking up with the Russians over here. And then why wouldn't some rednecks want a couple of great, sweet German submachine guns back home? So there's a lot of money to be made in this black market over thing here. Now, the driver of the truck that struck and killed General Patton's vehicle was apparently known to be involved in the black market transactions toward the end of the war. He's almost like any other Jersey guy. Like we said, he's from Camden, folks. You can't really trust people from Camden. All right? He's trying to make a buck, and while the accident appears to have been legitimate, there's a million conspiracy theorists that are going to say that Patton was taken out. Wild Bill Donovan, who became the head of the CIA, just wanted Patton gone. They're like, there's no more war to fight. Get rid of him. He's useless to us. But here's one thing that struck me as very nerve-wracking, Dad. The driver's mother had a premonition that her son was involved with the accident. When she heard the news that General Patton was in a car accident, she goes, oh, my God, my son was the driver. And she was right. Okay, that's a little creepy.
She's back home in Camden.
Exactly. Thompson is not on official business. He's also reportedly 50 miles from where he was supposed to be, which suggests that the vehicle may have been taken out for joyriding or possibly looting. Now, Thompson, again, the driver over here, his own daughter, after he died, referred to her father as an unsavory man and alleges that in the, quote, mint that her father made, mint meaning like the buttload of money that he made.
Yeah, right.
He had made from wartime looting, that he allegedly stole parts from Patton's crashed car and sold them on the black market. So, hey, you got into a little bit of a car. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I just kill the most important general in our army? Let me get that fender. I'm going to grab a couple taillight pieces.
Hey, it was a Cadillac after all.
Yeah, can I get a little piece of glass with some blood on it, and we'll just sell that? I feel like this is before eBay, too, folks. You really had to, you had to earn the hustle. But That one creeped me out big time. And again, that's the guy's own daughter is ratting him out after he dead. He dead. I'm shocked.
Who learned you English?
I think I'm a product of the Passaic County education system, folks, all right? Support your teachers, you know what I'm saying? If you support your teachers, then they don't have to take podcast hosting jobs with their dipshit son.
Yeah, in their retirement.
Now, the major conspiracy, like I said, is that Wild Bill Donovan, the head of the OSS, which would become the CIA, considered a founding father of the CIA, he wanted or at least benefited from Patton's death. Ike was a politician, even though his speech when he left office was warning us about America's descent into the military-industrial complex and shadow governments. So when they talk about a deep state, this isn't a new thing that Donald Trump invented, okay? I understand he's a polarizing figure here, but he's echoing things that have been going on for... You can't tell me that there's no deep state and then also tell me you watched the X-Files as a kid, okay? It's there. It's there. It's been right out there in the open the entire time. And by the way, Ike makes that great speech about the dangers of the military-industrial complex on his exit speech. Dad, who's the next president after Dwight Eisenhower?
John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
There was a couple of conspiracies on his death, too, wasn't there? I think.
Not that I'm aware of.
No?
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
I read something about it, some papers that they did. They said it was a lone gunman and he was a crazy guy.
Yeah, with a magic bullet.
Yeah, just a magic bullet that he had. I don't know where he got it. Perhaps Gandalf. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Patton, however, was a fighter. He wanted to fight and he never got it. He was flawed. He was brutal. But he was an American, goddammit. We're lucky we had him. If those rabbis, I think they made the greatest point, what those rabbis said. Yeah, he said a lot of messed up things. Yes, he did a lot of messed up things. But we're out of those camps right now because the crazy cowboy general, he made it happen. So that is the death of General George Patton. LP, anything for the listeners on the way out?
No, I think we got it.
We at it?
We got it. We got it. We're at it. We're out of it.
You guys want to know how to help me grow the show? I'm going to tell you one more time. Subscribe to Gas Digital. Use the promo code LOSER. Get you $1 off a month. All right? That's also how I get paid for this one. If you're going to be someone on a budget, which I totally understand, keep supporting the show. Listen to us. SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, anything you can. Helping us out on our YouTube channel is the best way that I can help Mike Harrington feed his family. Okay, folks? It's at Here Lies KP Burke is the YouTube channel. If you search KP Burke American Loser, you will find us. Please subscribe. Throw a comment down in the comment section. Say anything you want. Comment on my father's perfect mustache, all right? Comment on the fact that I don't look like him. Yes, I'm adopted, folks. I'm adopted, okay? I didn't get to be tall and naturally lean, okay? I just had to grow a beard in order to pretend that I had a jawline. These are things that I have to come up with.
Any comment's a good comment.
Absolutely. And also, I'm not sure when this one's coming out, but please come out and see me on the road. One of the great joys in my life is when people start yelling out American Loser when I'm in the crowd. Harrington got to see it at a brewery gig in Maryland the other day. The people are starting to come out for this one, and the more people that come out that are American Loser fans, the more I'm going to tell weird stories from history on stage. I got great dick jokes, folks. I've been writing them for about 15 years, okay? But I would love an opportunity to talk about John Wilkes Booth on stage with you guys and just make fun of these guys, okay? This show is my pride and joy. I have to say thank you again to good Doc Harrington back there, taking care of business. The Dominator, okay? I hope you like that nickname. If you hate it, you got to tell me, okay? My father, Lawrence Patrick Burke, who's the guy that helped me make this show possible. And also a quick shout out to Carly Sonny, who does two very important things. She helps me make this show because she believes in the show as well. And also, she lets me bang her. And that's really nice. That's just really nice, okay? But folks,
that's taking one for the team.
100%, 100%. So I gave you some ways to help grow the show here, guys. We're brand new to the network. We want to make a splash over here. I'm so grateful to be a part of the network, and they might kick us out of here if we don't get the numbers going, okay? I feel like we're safe for right now. But in the meantime, do me a favor, support the show any way you can. Come on out and see me on the road. It's kpburkecomedy.com. I got tons of stuff coming up down the road. I'm going to be all over the place this summer. Very excited about that. That being said, folks, my name was KP Burke. That was the death of General George Patton, American Loser.
On the edge they take the throne, built on bones of those unknown. Not in first, never last, still erased from the past.